let's talk about the fact that Marvel, ladies and gentlemen, is on a canceling spree again, just like Disney.
Yeah, thank God.
Just like Disney and Star Wars was all their stuff and everything's getting canceled. Now a whole bunch of Marvel properties are also getting canceled, including Captain Marvel 3, Eternals 2, Ant-Man and the Wasp 4, and to which I say, who the hell thought Eternals 2 was going to get made anyways?
That was mind-blowing. Yeah. But a lot of the MCU fans are salty right now because they feel like this is robbing the female Marvel fans of their representation with Brie Larson. One said, so Thor is allowed to have 3 flops and still have another movie on the way, but if a female-led franchise has 1 flop due to factors outside its control, then it's canceled? Okay, Disney, F you then.
Which movie? Wait,
factors outside its control.
In which movie are they speaking about there? Now, if they're talking about Eternals, are they referring to the fact that
she's talking about the Marvels.
Okay.
She's talking about the Marvels, which made $206 million worldwide.
Yes. On a budget of $220 million with marketing.
More than that.
More.
Because they did a lot of reshoots.
No, I'm saying just...
Bare minimum, though.
Bare minimum.
Bare minimum, it lost Disney $200 million, more or less. Okay?
Yep.
So, and then, according to what you told me yesterday, Brett, at least Thor Love and Thunder made Disney possibly 10 million? 5 million? 10 million maybe? Okay.
Thor Love and Thunder came close to breaking even.
Still a flop. Still a flop, but not as egregious of a flop as the Marvels.
No.
So, but still, factors outside of their control, meaning misogynists, and what else? COVID?
No, what else? I imagine they would use COVID for the
extreme weather events that were preventing everyone from going to the theater to see the Marvels.
Oh yeah, for the Marvels. Yeah. I remember that whole BS. No, it's just bad. The problem is that the Marvels exists inside of this new Phase 4 and 5 system that just none of it works. None of it works. You can have something like an Ant-Man 1 and 2 during phases 1 through 3 that doesn't really make the mark. Those movies didn't really make any money. They lost money at the theater, but it was part of a bigger story that was making money. You got nothing of that going on right now with Marvel. That's the big problem.
Did you see Quantumania?
Yes.
What'd you think?
I didn't care for it.
It sets up Jonathan Majors. I guess that's all it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
But it was pretty preachy, actually, about his activist daughter, and she's taking the reins of the Ant-Man franchise.
That's what I said. They take all the older characters and they're trying to steer it into that, and it doesn't work with the new characters. So why pollute and kill the old characters with it that could still make you money? I mean, that's what they did with Thor 4. Thor Love and Thunder was terrible from that end.
One of my problems with what Paul Tassi said in the Forbes article, he says, I think The Marvels was probably the movie alarm bell that set all of this off. With the $200 million secret invasion was probably the show alarm instead. As I think both Eternals and The Marvels were underrated given their performance, I can understand why sequels would not be pursued. However, I don't think it's wise for The Marvels to just ditch Captain Marvel and Iman Vellani's Kamala Khan. They should be given more to do, not less, given how great she is in the role. I would say...
What?
I would say you can keep Kamala Khan on as an Avengers character in the future. I don't think you continue on with Captain Marvel.
Well, that is kind of what they're trying to do. Yes. They're showing the young Marvels... They're introducing the young Marvels to take over as the young Avengers. Another tweet said, Captain Marvel, my favorite superhero of all time, who is also a role model to many girls and women around the world, is most likely not getting a third movie because this fandom is full of dude bros who hated on the Marvels for no reason other than misogyny since it was announced. I'm so done. F them all.
You know what the problem with that statement is? Is that if you look at the demographic breakdown of all of the big Marvel movies that featured prominent male superheroes, and going back to Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, all this, guess what? About half that audience was women or close to it, which means that 2 to 3 times as many women, if not 4 to 5 times as many women, went to go watch the Dude Bros movie than they did the frickin' Marvels.
Because they want to see dudes, like muscular dudes, not annoying women.
It's like, look, I've said this before. Inherently, is there anything wrong with doing movies featuring female superheroes? No. Hell no. Not at all. The problem is you can't spend $200 to $300 million in the case of the Marvels after the reshoots, well over $300 million just to make it before you spend a dime marketing it. You can't do that because the audience for those films just are not there.
Yeah.
So
Simply
ironic
not there.
that the feminist female representation movie was actually facing troubles because there was a cat fight on set
Supposedly.
between Brie Larson and Tiana Paris.
Oh, that's what's funny about it. So I read Tiana Paris's comments about this, about the Marvel. She says, I would hope that people would give it a fair shot by just seeing it or trying it. If you don't like the first 10 to 15 minutes, fair enough. Your time is precious. But we make these films so that it can be an escape from your real world in a moment for levity and joy and fantasticalness. No, most of the time, that's not really what it is. The problem is, now if she's talking about watching it on Disney Plus, fair enough, but you can't really go to a theater to see something if you like it for 10 to 15 minutes and then a la carte leave and
Can you imagine bringing your 3 kids to see the Marvels? You've spent, what, $200 and then you see 15 minutes and you're like, oh, we'll pass.
Yeah.
You're so out of touch. I mean, I'm sure she didn't mean anything by it, but you sound out of touch.
And here's the thing. We're moving into the X-Men and the Fantastic Four phase of Marvel now, where the landscape is going to change dramatically. Now, how well they managed to pull that off, I think, is anyone's guess, and I think most of us would err on the side of not well.
Yeah.
I actually can't believe that these people exist. In the replies, not only misogyny, but racism, since 2 of the leads were POCs.
Sorry, but Iman Vellani was the best character in that movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kamala Khan was
most
the best
of the
character in that
negativity
movie.
at least gave her some praise.
Yep.
Dude Bros made Marvel lose its spark and it will never recover. The Marvels was so much fun. Hate was ridiculously forced.
Maybe what they should say is that it's not that Dude Bros ruined your movie, it's that Dude Girls made the other movies good, right? So Dude Bros don't show up for Captain Marvel, but Dude Girls do show up for Iron Man and Captain
Girls.
America.
Yep.
And all these things. Like, girls and dudes, guys want to see heroic dudes do heroic stuff and save women, and women want to see heroic dudes do heroic stuff and save women. Obviously, the save women part isn't really prevalent these days.
No, they just don't emasculate them.
Yes.
That's the key. I mean,
they also mentioned that the Agatha show lost its steam. Well, yeah, because it was a viral song 2 years ago, and no one's going to care because Loki season 2 is long over, and it's past its moment. It's not going to work. No one's going to care. And Ant-Man and the Wasp, and the Eternals, nobody liked the Eternals anyways. All these movies were not even critically praised.
No.
That's one of the things they forget to mention. It's not like they got rave critic reviews, but low audience scores. These were not really praised by the critics either.
I think Disney's problem is what it has always been. And they've had this mindset, and this goes well before Iger and all this kind of stuff. It's like, thou shalt not speak ill of Disney if you work there. It's this idea that everything that they do is wonderful and perfect and amazing.
It's a cult.
It is a cult. And I think, honestly, they've started kind of believing some of their own bullshit. And that is that they put these movies out, and what did Disney tell us for the last 2 or 3 years? I mean, 2 years at least, from 2021 to 2022 into 2023, we still kept hearing excuses about, audiences just haven't wanted to return to theaters yet. The family audiences haven't come back.
Except for Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, Top Gun Maverick.
Except for
$1 billion Minions Rise of Gru.
Except for Super Mario Brothers.
How about Wonka? Wonka did well.
Well, but I'm talking about even like a year or 2 ago, you had movies, Spider-Man No Way Home, that came out that was part of the MCU but was distributed by Sony. It's like, no, people want to go see it. People just didn't like the movie. They didn't know who the Eternals were. They didn't care. The trailers weren't that interesting.
When you say they're believing their own bullshit, I feel like Bob Iger might be an exception to that based on the report. It says, after Eternals 2 was canceled, Kevin Feige reportedly wants it to be made, but Bob Iger thinks it's a guaranteed flop. So he's living in reality, at least.
Well, yes, he may well be. And I'm not going to discredit him for that, but also understand is that Bob Iger is in a position that Kevin Feige is not. Feige doesn't have to answer to shareholders. And when they keep seeing a year's worth...
He's in the sandbox.
Yeah. So when you talk about, okay, I've said before, you can get away with, we had a flop or 2 this year, right? But when Disney puts out 7 or 8 major motion pictures in a year, all of which come with $200+ million budgets on average, and they're spending more than that, okay? And you have 5 or 6 of them clean fail, you're going to take notice. I mean, most people don't understand how that box office system works, what kind of revenues actually come back to those distributors versus what they actually spent. But when you have that much failure in that short a period of time and everything has bombed, and you're getting your ass stomped every week on the Nielsen ratings because Netflix, Amazon Prime, and now even sometimes Paramount and Peacock are beating you in your Disney Plus shows, and the only Disney Plus show you have that shows up on Nielsen every week is Bluey, that you don't even own, that you license from Australia, people take notice. Iger's going to have to answer that and go, yeah, we're cutting back. We're peeling it back.
We've got a $100 super chat. Thank you for the party from Chris Noski. He said, starting the crowdfund to never use Captain Marvel again. Also, Brett, I did like the Eternals, but felt it was too long.
So there's one person.
You're literally the only person on Earth.
I will give you this. It was unbelievably too long. The fact that they marketed it on the idea it's like the first MCU sex scene, and everyone's like, what? What?
Yeah, why do we need that?
What are you talking about? But also, that whole movie was really just Angelina Jolie schooling everyone on how to actually look charismatic on screen. Everybody else looked like wet dirt, and everything else. She was the only like bright spot in that whole film. Right? It was awful. And that's the funny thing is Gemma Chan is a really good actress, but they gave her nothing to work with in there. And the movie was like 2 hours and 45 minutes. I wanted my seat to just start on fire. I did.
Well, the Marvels was almost that long.
Someone to yell fire in a crowded theater.
I did. It was the one good thing we had in 2023 was like movies started to air back to the shorter side, right? We were getting most, other than Oppenheimer and Dune, and Dune's 2024, but like most of the movies kept it to 2 hours, maybe 2 hours and 15 minutes. I liked Rogue Nation, or the Dead Reckoning, but it was like 2 hours and 35 minutes, and even that's pushing. I'm like, the train scene could be cut down a little bit. He's not really, it's like he's jumped. Let's just get to the cliff jumping part. Can we get to the cliff jumping part? I want to get to the cliff jumping part. Okay, they're too long. You can't make your money when you spend $250 to $350, sometimes $400 million on these films. Secret War was like $200 million. Nobody watched it. Nobody cared.
So every one of those Disney Plus shows, either Marvel or Star Wars show, that's the norm. They're spending roughly $200 million on a single season for all of those MCU shows. But yeah, I mean, we were talking about the Star Wars thing earlier, right? The Force Awakens, $560 million to produce that film. That's the actual figure. Not the BS. Here's the budget that they show you on the number that was $250. No, we actually pulled the financial returns for the production company that they had in the UK where they filmed it. It was $560 million. So you think about that, you made a $2 billion movie, you spent $560 billion filming it, another $250 easily marketing that thing. That was the first one out of the gate. You're talking about almost $750, $800 million just in expense to get that movie into theaters.
And it made what?
Disney would have gotten about $1 billion back from the box office of $2 billion. So they really only made maybe $250 on that movie. You don't think about that. But that was the case with almost every Star Wars movie.
And diminishing returns from there on out.
Oh, yeah, big time. They still spent $515 million on The Rise of Palpatine, the final movie.
Exactly.
Yeah, I won't say Rise of Skywalker because that was BS.
I see all this stuff, and all I can think about is like... last year, all the big movies that did well were $100 million movies, meaning they cost $100 million to make, which means that even with their marketing budget, it's a far less risky investment. And nobody wants to spend $500 million to make $5 million anyway. Nobody in their right mind wants to do that. And they can't get over the fact that there just is no excitement. Who are we talking to where somebody said they were going to take their kids or something to go see the Marvels, and they were talking to some waitress. She's like, I didn't know they made any movies after Endgame. Like,
Oh yeah. Like I told you I was like,
the
I was listening to normies talk about it, and they were like, oh yeah, I didn't know they were still making those. Like,
thank you.
That's where the current public sentiment is at, and they're not doing much to help the situation.
And they're gonna live. And the other thing that I laugh about is like I think it's gonna bother them forever that they're never gonna own Spider-Man. So
I was just going to say that,
They're never going to make the money off Spider-Man that they could be making. Granted, they'd probably find a way to screw that up too.
Well, they get a piece of it with Sony. That's the deal, right? Because Sony wanted to get Spider-Man into the MCU because, hey, the MCU was making bank at the box office at the time.
Time isn't really selling to anyone, so.
Yeah.
I can't with it. And with the Marvel stuff, it just feels like a lot of... Whenever we talk about this stuff, all I can think about is like the amount of money that gets pushed through there. Would they not be better to spend less on this stuff? But the production model that they've worked themselves into, meaning 6 versions of every scene. It costs unbelievable amounts of money because of the way they run their post-production department, which of course was Victoria Alonso's job before, and they haven't really found a way to fix it. One of the things I liked about Dune, or one of the things that I liked about The Creator, was that every shot, which was still heavily featuring a lot of CGI, looked planned and deliberate and actual art, whereas everything Marvel does just looks like, computer vomit.
Because
it really does.
It's like a privileged trust fund kid. They don't care about how much money they spend on a luxury sports car.
Yeah.
But if you have limited means, you're actually going to be intentional and deliberate with the way you use it.
So could the paring back be good for them? Now this is more rose tinted glasses,
Sure.
right? Could the idea that, we're going to make less films, we are going to spend less on them, so maybe we're going to put a good brunt of that money into hiring a competent director, a competent visual effects supervisor. I know, I'm laughing on the inside too. A competent visual effects supervisor, a competent line producer, all these jobs that you actually need for a production to come out well. What did Gareth Edwards get hired for recently? He just got hired for something. And get Gareth Edwards.
After The Creator, you mean?
Yes. So he just got hired for something. And the point is, you say, wow, he made that movie with $80 million. What if we gave him $100 million to make a movie? Theoretically, he could give you a good film, right?
Well, the issue with that is it's not Victoria Alonso, as useless as she was, and a big part of the problem at Marvel, big reason and a big part of why people like Kevin Feige got to take over and they ran Ike Perlmutter off, right? Kevin Feige needed a fall guy, and her name was Vicky Alonso.
Yep.
Okay? She was set up for that. Now, the problem with Marvel is that the whole idea of this scrapbooking system where they just, let's shoot a tell-your-own-adventure story, and then we'll fix it in post and see what works, what tests the best and all this kind of crap. The problem with that is that that's him doing it. I don't think that's necessarily going to change. When Iger talks about they're eliminating numbers of projects, they're eliminating the numbers of projects. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to kill the budgets on the projects that they do let through the gate. Because they're going to feel like, oh, if we put Hugh Jackman in this as Wolverine, then we'll be fine. Because people will just reflexively show up and spend money. We don't know if that's really going to work yet. But the problem is that they don't do the pre-production planning. So they have a script, and then instead of like a Denis Villeneuve or a Gareth Edwards, when they're left to their own devices, it's like one of the reasons they keep the budgets down is because they don't start rolling until they're 100% done in pre.
Yeah.
Meaning we know we're going to go out, we're going to shoot this. This is how this is going to be done. At Marvel, it's the opposite. They go in and they keep shooting, and then they go back and do more shoots and more shoots and more shoots and more shoots.
The director of the Marvels told us this.
Yes, Nia DaCosta.
Yeah, she literally admitted it in an interview as if it were a good thing. Like, oh, we're just such a ragtag team. But she literally had no control over the movie.
It was a Kevin Feige movie, is what she said.
And they just kind of slapped her name on the homework.
I get crap for this all the time, where I say there's a reason Marvel likes to hire directors without clout. And then they'll be like, oh, but Sam Raimi. But yes, okay, so there's like 7 or 8 directors that have real name recognition that have worked at Marvel. There's like 40 films or 35
But even
films.
They don't get to run their own film.
No.
It's still a Kevin Feige production.
Like, if anything, if those movies turn out well, it's because that director actually knows what they're doing. And the problem is that it's because they're not in charge. It's like when they were making Black Widow, they're like, don't worry about the special effects. We'll do the fight scenes.
Right.
You can do the rest of it. We'll do the fight scenes. That's our job, right?
Right.
What director wants to do that? Somebody who is new and is being given. Look at the lady hired to do the Rey movie.
Nia DaCosta with stars in her eyes, like, wow, I'm on a real movie set.
Right.
They're like, you don't need to worry about this.
It's
and
a
this, and this.
ragtag. I like the idea of like Disney being like, we're just a ragtag team of movie makers over here at the multi-billion-dollar company. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.